Okay, Rob, we're going to get started. Let's go ahead and start getting you torn down here. Yeah, no lubrication. Dried up a long time ago. That's okay. Seikos are pretty robust. They will run essentially without any lubrication. Tolerances are not all that tight. This has been dry for, I would say, all of its life. It's in such good shape. Such a nice clean movement to start with. There's no service marks in the case, so I'm assuming this is factory standing. So it's nice to see. Power down. Okay. Go ahead and get your crown out. Yeah, clean as a pin. This one sat in a drawer somewhere. It's a nice find. Wow, look at that. Beautiful, beautiful, beautiful. You can see some slight hazing on your minute hand here. Otherwise, just stunning. What a lovely example. We're going to stabilize your loom on your hour hand like you had pointed out. Put some binder on the back side to make sure that doesn't crack anymore. Be super gentle. close look at that. But look at that dial. Ooh-wee. That is nice. Holy mackerel. Beautiful, beautiful. Sorry for the noise. Okay, we're back. My camera filled up, and so you might have missed a piece or two, but not too much. All right, let's continue here. Let's continue. Taking piece by piece here. Alright, there's your train bridge. I'm going to clean that and jewel that. There's your center wheel. Third wheel. Here's your escape wheel. Looks good. And no hacking. Yep. Lost a little lubrication. Got a little bit of an oval here. So we'll make sure that's taken care of with a jewel. Okay. Go ahead and take care of the calendar side. Oops, come back. There we go. Okay, so looking good over here. Full metal everywhere. Got a metal intermediate wheel, and of course on these the date correcting wheel is all steel. That's nice. Can of pinion, nice and tight. That's good to see. Your center wheel. Okay. Do die shock. All right. rest of the keyless works. And with that, we are finished with the disassembly. Okay, so next step, of course, is jeweling this port and rebuilding all your components, and we will come back. All right, to be continued. Okay, Rob. Well, we are out of the cleaner. We are ready to go. Everything has been checked and double checked, and I hope that we are smooth sailing for a great rebuild. Of course, pointing out your brand new American-made Blair Watch Project Klein Vintage Watch collaboration right there. And here's another one, your upper. So that's good to go, ready to last for an indefinite amount of time now. No more issues with arbor ports, because that baby is a jewel, literally and figuratively. All right, so standard process here. We're going to get your train of wheels put together, and then get your balance put in place. Check how it's all doing. Just make sure everybody's happy here. Oh yeah, okay. There we go. That's the click. Okay. Good. Okay. Now, put your barrel. Your mainspring was in great shape, so that went back in without exchange, which was nice. Okay. Make sure all of your wheels are past the final inspection. Make sure there's nothing there to impede movement. Alright. Looks good. Alright, third wheel comes next. All your pivots look good, all your jewels are clean, all your bushings are right. Everything looks fine. Fine like wine. All right. Fourth wheel. Okay, this gets a little drop of lubrication along the shaft here. Make sure everything clean. Okay. All right, no hacking lever to think about. So So we can proceed with your bridge. Just like so. Okay. And with that, we are ready to put our first screw in. Whenever I say the word screw in, I think of a protein that binds actin filaments that you can purify, and it comes from this very strange animal, but it's a binding protein for actin, cellular biophysics kind of stuff. It's called screw-in. It's kind of a funny name. All right. Makes me think back to my postdoc. Good. All right. There's your click and your ratchet wheel. Excellent. Nice train movement, nice and free. Okay. Let's go ahead and lubricate. All right, next up is your cannon pinion. Perfect. Nice click. Okay, let's get some lubrication here, and your pre-lubricated die shock setting. There we go. Okay, now we can flip back over. Ooh, that is nice and quiet now. Nice and quiet, which is the way you want it. Okay, that's good. Perfect. Okay, let's crank some power in here. And grab your balance. There we are. Come on. There we go. Very nice. Die shock. And there we go. Looking good. Looking good. Okay. Let's see what we've done. Let's check our work. All right, be right back. Okay, Rob, well, let's make some adjustments and see where we can get to with this lovely movement. Doing pretty good. Let's see here. Got to take a little bit of bead air out. So let's start down that road. Oop, that might have been too much. In the wrong direction. Way too much. Now we're talking. Let's get back. There we go. All right. Okay. That's good. Now, let's take some of this rate out. Let that settle down a little bit. Oop, not too much there. Oh, now. There we go. Okay. Now we're talking. Good. A little bit more rate to come down. Okay, good. Looking pretty good. Super accurate. Let's see what your amplitude does. We may have to go back in and check a few things. We're not getting the numbers we want, but I have a feeling this is going to take off as we let it break in a bit. Yep. All right. Well, let's let this rest a while and let the lubricants work their way, do their magic, and we'll come back. All right. Numbers are steady. Just got to see if we can boost that amplitude. We'll be back. Okay, Rob. Well, the numbers are pretty steady. I've had to do a bit of adjusting to get things right, but I think we're on the right track now. So I'm going to call this ready to start reassembly on the other side. So here we go. Okay, Rob. Well, it's 3 days later. This watch is such a mystery to me. I'm at the point now of feeling confident, but it has been a head scratcher. I have to say, for a couple days, I have been thinking about what could be going on. So, generally, the watch ran all right. By the way, we're on the calendar side now. It was solid. The numbers were okay. Everything was good until you moved the watch. That is, you flipped it over to check to make sure that in different positions things were right. And then all hell broke loose. It was really a disaster. And then I started to really look at things. Usually when you put these things together, you sort of go through your checks and you make sure that things are right. But there are certain interesting objects within the watch that belie certain histories that, you have to sort of discern from, an educated guess, let's say. So my educated guess was that I had no idea because it was all very, very hard to distinguish what was actually going on. And so the engineering process began where, you look at parts very closely, you try and, exchange things with known parts. And when those don't work, you've got to figure out what system is then the next step down to try and get to the things that you want to replace and repair. It turns out that I think, given the beauty of the case and all of the things that came along with this watch, that's all there. But at some point in the history and the life of this watch, it was really dropped hard. Maybe really hard, in fact. Not hard enough to break pivots, but certainly hard enough to move jewels and distort die-shock settings. I had to replace both of your die-shock springs. And so what was going on was that the balance itself, the up and down movement of the balance, is constrained by these die-shock cap jewels. These springs are there to ensure that if the watch is dropped and there's some shock, that these springs give a little bit and allow the balance to move up and down vertically in this position, for example. Both of those springs were bent. I don't think this watch has ever been serviced, to be honest. But the springs themselves were bowed outward, which allowed the balance to jump up and down. Now, in a flat position like this, timekeeping was perfect, accurate, very good. Once I replaced some other things, you need a new pallet fork. I put a new jewel in. You needed to have all your bushings shifted so they would be in proper end shake, etc., etc. However, once that was done, I noticed that I couldn't get proper timing in different positions when I rotated the watch on the time grapher. Now it's fine. I've gone back, changed multiple things that needed to be changed. I added a jewel in your train bridge, and we'll go through this at the end. I'll show you all the pieces. But this watch has been a real head scratcher. It's been so interesting to try and figure it out. But I think we're there. Pretty sure we've got it all worked out now, which is good. Okay, so we're going to finish up with the calendar side after that long soliloquy. All right. So now we're on the easy stuff, which is basically just putting gears, lubrication. I built out your keyless works as I had gotten started, and then I realized that I was not in a position to close up shop, if you will, and put the dial and hands back on. We were not there yet, and so we've gone back. Gone back to do work. Whoop. It's so interesting to think about the history of these watches over, goodness me, stay in place, over their 50 plus year lifespan. And this is not a new watch. This is a watch that's, older than me by a considerable margin. Less considerable than I'd like to say, but certainly a watch that has seen some life. Whoop, and that's upside down. And as such, it has experienced things that we will never know. Take this back off real quick. Put some lubrication on this point. So as a consequence, it's sort of a guessing game all the way. Try and know the history. But there are clues, I say, that tell us what we're dealing with. And given that the watch is so beautiful and, presents so nicely, I didn't want there to be any potential issues within. And so it was quite a process. A lot of times with these, the center stack suffers, whether it's from rust or from shocks or from whatever. They tend to be somewhat mobile. You can wear out your center stack of components, your center wheel and your fourth wheel and the pivots and jewels. That wasn't necessarily the only thing that we were experiencing. There was more to it than that. And so your third wheel bushing is fine, but it had shifted in such a way that your third wheel was basically flopping around, as was your escape wheel. And that's in a jewel that, usually you don't really have to touch that much. Okay. Got you a rebuilt crown and stem. A new, lovely seal in that. All right, so we're ready for dial and hands. I'm going to give it one last check on the time grapher, just to be sure, just to make sure there's nothing strange going on, and we'll be back. All right. Okay, Rob. Well, we're here at the end and ready to put things, the final pieces back together. So let's go ahead and do that. Perfect. Okay. Okay. Last part. Of course, your winding weight. Good. Okay. Case back seal. And of course, the case back. Right. Okay. Well, let's have a look. Let's see where we are. Right, and there we have it. Beautiful 6105 8009 in all of its beautiful glory. Lovely, lovely watch. Just stunning, stunning in its presentation. Really, really like these cushion case 6105s. They are hard to find like this. Absolutely. That lume, those hands, the case itself, the insert, it's just a stunning, stunning watch. And now the movement is actually running great. I have to be frank, it wasn't. It was rough. It was hard to get this movement right, and I have to say it pushed me to my sort of ability limit in some sense. So let's review. We talked about it quite a bit while we were putting the calendar side together, but what I really like to do is give you a good feeling for what has been done. So there's your palette fork, and I went ahead and just as a precaution, because I didn't trust that jewel, I went ahead and changed your palette fork cock. There should be some die shock. They get trapped down in here. But, oh no, they're there. Okay, good. All right, let's review. Well, of course, gasket seal, crown seal. Here is your bushing that has been replaced. Palette fork, that needed to be replaced. Your exit jewel is, entry jewel actually, is out of whack. And it's easier just to replace them. Here is your, I think this was your lower die shock spring. Now, what's hard to tell is it should be flat, and you might be able to see the reflection isn't uniform across this. It's the same for the other. They were just bent out of whack. I don't quite understand it, but you have two new ones. So those will come home to you. You can play tiddlywinks with the smallest demonic tiddlywink in the world, which is that. That's your center wheel bushing. This was pushed out pretty far, and I figured, you know, rather than adjusting this just over and over and over again, why don't I jewel it and make sure that everything is robust. There's no question whatsoever. And so that's coming back, and that's your bridge for your palette fork. So yeah, so you're getting a lot of little bits back, but your watch itself is still, it's very original state. You know, I sort of have two philosophies that I think about when I work on watches. One is, you know, sort of I don't know what I would call it. Perhaps the right thing is to just say it's a idea of from medicine that we do no harm. You know, that's you take the Hippocratic Oath not to disturb a watch and not to make it worse than the way it started. Of course, we're always striving to make things better, to make them more beautiful and more reliable and more functional. But also, I sort of buy into the notion of the ship of Theseus, and that is that, you know, when is it still the original watch? I try and try and try to make sure that the components that are in your watch are the ones that came on your watch. Now, of course, I don't know the exact history of the watch, but when it gets to my hands, my notion is to not replace things as much as possible, but to try and repair and try and do what's right by the watch. And to me, originality is very important. So I think we've gotten there. We've had to take some steps to make things change, but of course these will live with the watch, I hope, forever as a memento of the past. So, Rob, great watch, crazy experience. This one pushed me, but I think the result is fantastic. Great looking watch. Everything works exactly as it should. Let's just, for completeness, make sure we go through all the functions. So let's look at your hand alignment. I think that's good to do at 9 o'clock. We're going to click over the date. We'll get past that point and we'll check the quick date, of course, which is still functioning as it should. Today is the 23rd. Good. And the time is 4 minutes to the hour. I believe that's right. All right. All right, Rob. Well, thanks again, and I look forward to getting this back to you so you may enjoy it. And of course, I think you are planning to make these heirlooms for your sons, and so whoever gets this one, he's the lucky one. Make sure he gets my phone number too. Just kidding. All right. Thanks a lot, Rob. Take care.